Yo, how's everybody doing? It's been a week of waiting. I decided to take a week off just for some personal reasons, and my recording on Monday just totally screwed up, so I would have had to redo it anyways. But we're back, and it's Mixtape Mondays, and so for the first mixtape, I decided, why not? We'll do Freddie Gibbs' mixtape. I'm a little bit late because of the week delay, but I still want to cover Gibbs' mixtape because I think it's a decent effort, so let's get right into that. This tape starts off really hard with the song Wait, which has this very spacey construction to the production on it and this futuristic tone to it. The intro before the chorus really sets this song up nicely, I think, with Freddie Gibbs' panning vocals as he lets us know that it's Kane season as opposed to Escobar season. Gibbs' flow and delivery on this track is hard as hell, and the layered vocals really fill that space that's created on this track. Overall, this track never gets too boring, even though it's pretty repetitive just because of how much energy Gibbs brings to it. Freddie continues with the same energy on the song Automatic. The lack of diversity when it comes to the vocals really makes this track lackluster in my opinion. The production is very sinister with these yells pushed into the background of the production. It makes me feel like I'm in gangster purgatory or something, and Gibbs' lyrical content on this track fits the occasion, but I feel like this song could have had more of a dynamic to it rather than having a constant flow barrage from Gibbs. It's even hard to distinguish when the chorus starts in this track, and its length doesn't really justify the amount of lyrical content that's on it. I think this is definitely a weaker track on this mixtape overall. Death Row is a highlight on this tape, and it interpolates, or samples, whatever you want to call it, Boys in the Hood by Eazy-E, which serves as the melody for this song. And it has some more sinister production going on in the background and some simple but hard and effective drums on this thing. Freddie's flow on this is unstoppable and pretty groovy when it gets to the chorus. 03 Greedo, who's recently got sentenced to prison for quite a long while, is a great addition on this track with some great flow and good energy and some pretty entertaining ad-libs. He almost matches Eazy-E's more nasally delivery on this thing as he reinterprets the first line off of Boys in the Hood for the first line on this track on his verse. The chorus is very little filler, it's pretty direct, and I think it just shines on this tape. Triple Threat is another highlight on this tape for me. If it wasn't obvious enough how similar this mixtape is to works off of Freddie Gibbs' prior discography, such as Shadow of a Doubt, then this track makes it pretty clear for you. Gibbs switches it up a bit and adds some reverb on his voice here to enhance that slow, spacey, and removed feeling of the production on this track. His singing on this track, if you could call it singing, is actually pretty good with the added reverb on here, and I think it's very melodic, and a lot of the times I listen to this track I find myself nodding along to it. It's just very groovy the way Gibbs is able to flow on this. Overall, it's a really solid late night driving track if you're into that. Next up is Too Legit. My problems with this track are mostly the same that I had with the track Automatic. For how similar the lyrical content is, and the lyrical content on this whole mixtape is pretty similar when it comes down to it, which isn't bad, but for how similar it is, there's no reason that Freddie needs to be saying this much on this track, especially with the chorus, which I think is just a bit repetitive and dragged out. The Mary J. Blige sample on this is pretty sudden, but it adds what I think is a great addition to the ambiance of the overall track. I think with a shorter or just a different chorus altogether to kind of allow some breathing room for the production on this to to shine through, this cut could have been way better since we're not really getting anything new when it comes to the lyrical content or flow from Gibbs in this point. I think if there were any hopes that Gibb would come out with an R&B album like his promotional video might have made us believe, this interlude really shows that Freddie needs to up his singing game before any of that happens. It's almost like this is supposed to be like a joke or something, which, I mean, it might just be like a jokish kind of interlude. But even then, this interlude doesn't do much, rather than provide some breathing room between all these kind of drum-heavy, somewhat similar tracks, and serve as a transition, which I really don't think would be necessary if he kind of allowed some more breathing room for the production to shine through on tracks like Automatic and Too Legit. Set. on the other hand, I think shows just how well Freddie Gibbs can use his flow switches to his advantage. The production, in all honesty, isn't that different or special from the rest of the tape up to this point, but the switch and flow in the pre-chorus and the chorus gets you just vibing with this thing. The repeated lyrics at the end of the lines and the cuts in and out of the production really add some necessary impact to what Freddie Gibbs is saying and just to the overall feel of the song. Out of all the tracks on here, this one seems to me like it was way more thought through and that there was just more attention to detail paid to it. My AC turned on, hopefully that's not too loud for you guys. So Toe Tag is a good track, but there's nothing really identifiably wrong with it on an initial listen, but it definitely isn't something that stands out to me as a great track. I like that Freddie switched up his tone and his delivery a little bit to match the slow and mischievous attitude or vibe, tone, whatever you want to call it, of this song. But I mostly just think that this track is a little bit boring compared to the rest of the cuts on this album, on this mixtape, especially this far into it. Next track is FBC, which stands for Fendi Buckle Coat, as the chorus lets us know. And for being barely over 2 minutes long, there's really not that much to complain about on this track. The beat is hard, with some keys in the background with some effects on them, and some fat drums that accent Freddie's delivery on the chorus pretty well. What I really like about this track is actually what's going on in the background with the ad-libs. It gives this really good hyping up effect that accentuates Freddie Gibbs' success after getting this text from a girl to come meet him at the mall. Like, bish, you know that Freddie Gibbs is gonna shut that shit down when he gets there. It's a cool hype track, and the chorus is really addicting. I think that overall, this track is a good addition to the tape. Diamonds 2. I think Diamonds 2 is a great way to end off this mixtape with these haunting vocals added by Cassie Jo Craig, whose singing is accented by these spacey pianos, I think, or it might be a guitar or something, these simple notes that just have these, has this effect on them, and these 808 claps that echo deep into the production. Weirdly enough, Gibbs puts his daughter on this track as a way to kind of lead out the track by matching her sounds. I think she's pretty young, so her sounds with Cassie Jo Craig's haunting vocals, and I think it actually works to add that sense of creepiness to the song. Freddie's flow on here is honestly spectacular, and you'll find yourself wanting to sing along with this without a shadow of a doubt. But personally, I think this is probably my favorite, or my top 2 to top 3 tracks on this for sure. Leading up to this mixtape, I was actually pretty excited to see if Freddie Gibbs would do like an R&B EP or mixtape or something, just because he did release like this promotional R&B video. Given the stuff that Gibbs talks about, like money, sex, drugs, women, and gang culture and stuff, I thought that it might have been a nice departure for Gibbs to try out something that's R&B. I never heard him sing up until now, so I didn't know if that was going to be any good or not. Yet, despite the Tendy Pendergrass inspired cover art and the 80s R&B flair to this thing and the color scheme, that didn't pan out. We find Freddie following close to previous releases like Shadow of a Doubt, and despite its non-revolutionary diversion away from Freddie Gibbs' pretty prominent sound, I still think it's a pretty solid tape. This mixtape's lack of departure from Freddie Gibbs' usual sound, I guess you can say, doesn't fulfill that excitement I had believing that Freddie Gibbs was gonna come out with some crazy R&B, some gangster R&B album or something. But overall, I think it's still just a great summer track list, and I can see myself driving around to many of the songs on here, despite some of them just being repetitive and the lyrical content being about the same stuff and kind of delivered the same way. Of course, this isn't an official album, and I wouldn't say it's sonically different from anything that Freddie Gibbs has released before, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If anything, I do still, for some reason, even though that interlude kind of put me off a little bit, hope that Freddie Gibbs comes out with like a R&B album or something in the future, just to try it. I mean, hey, why not, right? I don't think just because this sounds very similar to some of the stuff that he's put out that it's really, you know, this is what Freddie Gibbs is just focused on the whole time. I think he's just giving his fans a little bit of a re-up of material that just sounds similar to what he's already put out. I mean, we know that Freddie Gibbs is a great artist, especially with his album that he co-made with Madlib and a bunch of other features. So I'm still excited for future releases by Freddie Gibbs, of course, but I do think that if you were a fan hoping Freddie Gibbs would change his style up on this, and honestly, the promotional stuff for this mixtape did make it seem like this might be a little bit different, then you're probably a little bit disappointed. But at the same time, we already know that Freddie's working on new material, and it's probably going to sound a lot different than this, hopefully. So I'm not too disappointed. It's a cool summer mixtape. Like I said, it's not an official album, so hopefully everyone's not too worried. And honestly, I wouldn't be worried anyway, because this just shows that Freddie still is able to produce good quality music. There's only 10 tracks on here, and most of the songs really aren't that long. They're just over 2 minutes. So overall, it's pleasing to listen to. It shows that Freddie Gibbs is still, you know, on top of his game, and hopefully there's cool new stuff coming out soon. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this album a 6 out of 10, and I will catch you guys Wednesday when I'll be releasing my Drake review of his new album. And hopefully that doesn't end up like an hour long, because I don't want to make anyone sit around for an hour listening to me. That's the last thing probably anyone wants to do. But I'll have that up Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, peace.